Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanov. My guest today has performed all over the world. Fiji, Australia, China, South Africa, America, and most of Europe. Performed leading roles in the West End and internationally, including Chess, one of my favorite shows, Chicago, Scrooge, The Phantom of the Opera, and a host of other musicals as well. And he has an album, Musicals Volume 1, being released on December 10th of this year. So let's get to know our guest a little better and welcome Tom Solomon to the show. Tom, how you doing?
Hello, Jean-Paul. I'm fabulous, thank you. Here in London.
Awesome. I know. You're in London, I'm in Toronto, and yet we can do this so easily now.
It's amazing. What is it, 2 o'clock there and 7 o'clock here?
It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 7 o'clock there.
There you go.
We're not live if you're listening on the radio part. But
I've just given that away.
They know.
Surprise.
Awesome. So let's get to know Tom a little bit better because, some of the listeners might know you, some of them might not. So who is Tom Solomon in 30 seconds, the 30-second bio of Tom?
I am a white wine drinking, dog loving musical theatre performer who has recorded a new album. I like pizza and Indian food, dining out at lots of restaurants, and generally having a good time. There you go. That's me.
You know what? I think we're gonna.
I like the sun. I like
the cooking show. It sounds like too. We're gonna talk about your favorite food.
I can't cook.
Okay.
I just like the food.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a controversial question then.
Okay.
And being Canadian, I have to ask: pineapple on pizza? Yes or no?
Yes.
Well, you just survived. You get another half hour of talk.
Fantastic. I love Hawaiian pizza. Ham and pineapple. It's brilliant.
Awesome. Okay, that's a good answer. And what kind of dog do you have? I'm always just curious.
Unfortunately, I lost my lovely French bulldog 2 months ago after 10 years. Amigo, his name was. Amigo Solomon, named obviously after Tom Solomon. So he was my lovely little thing, bless his heart, and unfortunately he passed 2 months ago. But he gave me 10 of the best years I've ever had.
That's all you can ask for, right?
Yep, exactly.
You take the love while it's still there.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
So let's take it back a little bit. Were you always into musical theater growing up, or is that something you discovered a little bit later in life?
I wasn't into musical theatre growing up, but I was in a boys' choir from the age of 8. And then I went into a youth choir. And it was actually my choir master and my first singing teacher who suggested that I may enjoy musical theatre. So I obviously listened to... She took us to Les Mis the first time on a school trip. And I think it was then that I just thought, that's for me. That is definitely for me, because I love singing, I love storytelling, and obviously musical theatre is about storytelling through song. So for me, that was where I got my first love of it.
No, I'm always curious when you're growing up and you're in school, you obviously are going to the arts. We know that, but was there anything else you ever wanted to do? Any other profession?
I was actually sports captain at school. So I was captain of all the teams: football, rugby, swimming, athletics, everything. So for me, it was either sport or performing. Mm-hmm. And I was also a gymnast. So I was a gymnast too. I was in the Southeast regional team gymnastics until the age of 13, I think. But injuries stopped that happening. And I decided singing was by far more important to me and performing than sport. Also, I was better at it. So I went with that option, really. But in terms of actual other interests, I was never going anywhere in terms of what I would call proper work. It was always a performing life for me. Definitely.
Nice. So did you go to post-secondary? Did you go for theater and performance?
I did. I did my A levels in music and theatre studies and English. Then I went on to train actually classically at the Birmingham Conservatoire of Music for 3 years under Paul Farrington, who's a fantastic teacher. And then I went to the Royal Academy of Music in London on the musical theatre postgraduate course and graduated there in, I think, 2001. That's showing my age. And that was a mistake. And I've only been performing for 6 years since. No, and 20 years later, I'm still performing musical theatre. So yeah, it was. I'm glad I trained classically. For me, it was the best training I could have had for vocal health, etc. And yeah, it set me up for my career so far.
Very nice, very nice. So you graduated from your post-secondary. What was the first show that you got?
I auditioned for Les Miserables. So it was the first show I saw, and it was the first show I got. And I actually went in as a swing on Les Miserables, and I've actually performed 11 roles in West End Les Miserables, which is the most difficult job I've ever done in my entire life. Hence, I've never been a swing again. I didn't actually know what it was when I got offered the part. I was just like, it's Les Miserables. Yes, I'll take it. It's in London. And then they said, by the way, you've got to cover 11 roles. And then the experience was very different, but it was the best learning experience I've ever had. I will always recommend to any performer to do it once. If you love it, great, do it more than once. But for me, that was enough of the swinging in, so to speak, in theatre.
It's a whole different show after.
That is a whole different
dark.
Let's not go there.
So what's it? I'm always curious. How does the rehearsals work for when you're a swing? Because you can't obviously do every role and straight through like when you do a regular role. How does that work?
You have a big folder, and you make diagrams of all the different characters that you are covering. So sometimes you may be covering 3 characters at once in one show. So you have to know in your head who's singing what lines, what microphone track to swap your microphones, what costume track you're doing to play the different roles. If you're going off after the barricades to sing the barricade warnings on the side in the vocal booth, all that sort of thing you have to memorize. So you watch these shows so many times, but I actually was on second night of my contract, and I'd never, so I just had to go on as Babe. Yeah. So you just fake it till you make it, really. That was what I did anyway. And yeah, you go with it and you learn on your feet, and it's just horrendously terrifying. Wow. But as I said, the best learning experience as a performer.
You know what? I can't even imagine. I go to the fridge and forget what I'm going in for. I can't even imagine trying to get 11 rolls and keeping them all straight.
Believe me, there was some mistakes. But I covered it with a smile.
Nice.
And not with a smile in Les Mis, but
with a
very sad face.
That's hilarious. So you got your feet wet. You're in Les Mis. Now let's talk about, you've done all these other shows, and you've toured the world. How did you go from 11 different parts in Les Mis to heading out to Fiji and things like that?
Well, I always had a plan of my career in mind. So I started as a swing, and then I got a cover. So I then stayed in Les Miserables and covered Marius. So I played Marius in the West End on different occasions. Then I was lucky enough to audition for Phantom of the Opera while I was in Les Miserables, and I got Phantom of the Opera, and I also covered Raoul and played it for about 6 months worth over 2 years. And I always moved up every job I did. So after that, while I was in Phantom of the Opera, I decided to enter a competition which was the Voice of Musical Theatre competition, a BBC competition for professional performers around the world. And I happened to win it. So from there, that gave me the footing to take that move up to playing roles. And then I ended up playing opposite Tommy Steele, the legend, in Scrooge at the London Palladium. And from then on, I played parts. I was cast in roles. You have to do your apprenticeship, I think, in theatre and every job in the world. And I just planned to move my way up in every contract that I did. And I was lucky enough to succeed in that. But to then go and perform around the world, because of the competition, I've been employed by lots of different orchestras to come and sing with them as a guest singer. And I'm also in various groups like Stars of the West End. There's 4 of us that we do shows here, and we also fly out, and we were lucky enough to get sponsored by British Airways.
Nice.
And it was a company called the British Theatre Playhouse took us out to Singapore, and we performed for the President of Singapore and the Queen of Malaysia. And then we flew back, and then we flew out again 3 weeks later. So I traveled the world twice. Wow. And sang for the Queen of Kuala Lumpur. No, that was Queen of Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur, but before that it was the President in Singapore.
Wow.
That's how I've sort of progressed. Because of the competition win, I was then introduced to lots of orchestras, which then employ you as a concert singer as well as doing theatre. So it's a bit of luck, a bit of hard work, and knowing contacts. So it's basically a bit of everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What an incredible opportunity to see everything and experience that.
It's been amazing. I've seen so many different places. I would love to go on holiday to these places, but to actually get paid to go there and flown out to Australia or Fiji, as you said, China. I went to China with the Chicago the musical for a tour there. And to get these opportunities where you just get taken to perform is amazing. The only downside is that you don't necessarily get to see all the places that you'd like to see because you're working. Yeah. But that's only a minor downside, obviously.
It's not a bad trade-off.
Exactly. I'll take it.
So you've done all these roles in these different shows. Do you have a favorite favorite show just in general, and a favorite role? Doesn't have to be from the same one.
My favorite show is probably chess. I played Anatoly, the Russian, in chess.
I did that too.
Fabulous. Well, you know exactly what I mean then, because the score is absolutely amazing to sing. I loved every second of singing that music. So amazing ABBA, Bjorn. Benny and Björn. Okay. They wrote it from ABBA, and the score is just the best score I've ever sung. Yes. I think sort of a pop rock classic score. But in terms of the best,
two questions before we move on from chess. Did you do the Broadway version or the UK version or a hybrid? Do you know?
We did a hybrid, I think.
Okay.
I think they changed who sang Heaven Help My Heart. It wasn't Svetlana. No, it was Svetlana, not Florence.
Okay.
I think.
I'm always curious about that.
Yeah.
Which version?
I'm right there. It was Svetlana, wasn't it? That was my wife. It was a long time ago. It was a very long time ago now. I get confused with all the characters, but it was fabulous. But my favourite show was a new production for the Royal Opera House, which was Pleasure's Progress, about William Hogarth and his paintings, and I played William Hogarth, and it was a brand new production. So creating something completely from scratch is the best experience.
Oh, for sure. Being able to put your own personal stamp on it and watch it grow and everything.
Exactly. And I got the chance to William Hogarth basically perform lots of characters in the show. So I'd go from playing William Hogarth to playing a countertenor to playing a lady of the night, all in one show, and all these different characters. So it was just really interesting and great for my mind.
So you took all your experience from your swing days, where you're playing all these different things.
Absolutely. Learning your craft and then putting it into action when you have to play 10 different characters in one show. So it's good fun. I love it. I love performing new pieces.
Agreed. So let's talk about this new album that you've got coming out, being released on December 10th of this year, 2021, depending on when you're listening to this, and called Musicals Volume 1. So tell us, what was the impetus for creating this, and how you chose the songs for it?
The impetus was the fact that I've never recorded any musical theatre songs, considering I've had a career in musical theatre. And the lockdown actually made me think I needed to create something and stay creative during, while we're all unfortunately in our houses, and I had to put my mind to something and have a project. So I've decided to actually record a few albums, hence it's called Musicals Volume 1, because there will be Volume 2, 3 and 4 hopefully. So yeah, that was my point, but I've only recorded other sort of music before. So my last album was an album called Beautiful Day, which actually went to number 1 on the iTunes classical chart.
Congratulations.
Which was mind-blowing for me. And that was classical crossover I did. So it was popular songs in a classical style. That was a double album. But so I basically wanted to do musical theatre because that's what I've always loved, but I'd never recorded it before. Okay. That was a long answer to a pretty easy question.
and how did you choose the songs? Because obviously you've done all these shows, and you probably have your own favorites, but how did you whittle it down to the songs that got on the albums?
Well, I've actually had 34 tracks done for all of the albums. And this one I wanted to do classics. So 5 of them are from shows and roles that I've performed. So you've got Anthem, obviously from Chess. Maria, I played Tony in West Side Story. Music of the Night, I was in Phantom of the Opera, but I played Raoul, and I've always wanted to perform Music of the Night, the Phantom solo. What else is there? There is that I've done, and 2 from Les Miserables. Empty Chairs, obviously I played Marius, and Bring Him Home, which I've always wanted to record, Jean Valjean, which I haven't played yet. I say yet. Hopefully Monday. You never know.
You got time. Yeah.
I've got a bit of time yet, so that's all good. And then the others are songs that I've always loved, performed in concerts. So there's 8 tracks on the album. So the others are Love Changes Everything from Aspects of Love, Some Enchanted Evening from South Pacific, and a version of I Am What I Am from La Cage aux Folles to finish off. So it's only 8 tracks. It's a short album, but it is the classics.
Wonderful. Now, the versions of the songs, are they just straight musical theater as taken, as normally sung, or have you, given it some flair, like your classical background, or the songs? How are they orchestrated?
I've changed a few. I was listening to lots of different arrangements. Obviously, I haven't got a studio, like Sony backing me. This is all self-produced. So for me, I have to listen to lots of different versions and come up with, something similar to a version I like or an arrangement I like, and then get it done as a backing track. I've got a wonderful guy who does my backing tracks called James Treweek. He's absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't ask for more really from him. He did all my tracks. He did 28 tracks for me for Beautiful Day. It was a double album, but he's done all 8 tracks for this album as well. So I basically listen to lots of different things, lots of different performers, and then I take the arrangements, put them into my own, and change the vocals to how I want to perform them. So I've changed some notes in Anthem. At the end I go to the high A, because for me it's quite dramatic, and and it shows off vocals, obviously. Maria, I've done a different version of that. It was influenced by the 1997 version by Dave Grusin, jazz version.
Okay.
So it's a different jazz version of Maria. Music of the Night is quite standard. Love Changes Everything is standard. Empty Chairs at Empty Tables is more of the Josh Groban version that he released in his album Stages. So I've gone down that route with the beautiful sort of jazzy chords and that sort of thing. And the I Am What I Am is the new Broadway cast version rather than the original. So it's sort of like the Douglas Hodge version.
Nice. No,
so it's just about listening and experimenting and finding something you like.
For sure. You got, if you don't like something, you know.
Exactly.
No point doing it. So.
If you don't like it, change it.
Exactly. No, you said you did it in isolation. You did it during the pandemic.
I didn't record during isolation. Okay. I got the tracks done while James was obviously working at home, so I could talk to him on email and he could work privately and do the tracks and come back and forth like that. And then when lockdown ended, I was able to go to one of my friend's studios up in Sunderland and recorded the tracks, the vocals there. I stayed there for a week and we just worked in the studio various days, various hours, and usually in the afternoon. I can't record in the morning. I don't know about anyone else, but that's a no-no. So afternoon, evening sessions, and recorded them in Sunderland up near Newcastle.
It must have been so nice to get out of your house and go to a studio again and just be around people. It must have been such a great experience.
It really was. And when we came out of lockdown, I was lucky enough to have some concerts booked in that were meant to be previous, pre-COVID, and they kept them going, and they put them back, so they all came around. So I had a few concerts in Scarborough and Broadway Arts Festival in the Cotswolds and things like that. So I was lucky enough to have some work come in after lockdown to help me pay for the album, basically, because it all costs money.
Well, congratulations on being able to get back out there and do some concerts and perform. And do you have any concerts coming up that people should know about?
I'm not doing any before Christmas.
Okay.
I'm having Christmas off. This is taking up all my time promoting this album. I'm sure you know, speaking to lots of different artists. And then I've got some in January, February, March, and then throughout the summer with a few orchestras. I'm hopefully doing a new orchestral version of Romeo and Juliet. I haven't heard the music yet, but I will be singing the role of Romeo. A friend of mine has written a new version, so that will be exciting with an orchestra. So yeah, next year basically back on it, and also recording volume 2.
Very cool.
Hopefully.
Cool. Well, how do people find about your album? Where are they able to purchase it?
Well, it's currently on pre-order from iTunes, all the iTunes in the world. So they can pre-order it on there. If it's after the 10th, they can obviously buy it on any download site. They can also stream it on Spotify or any other streaming site. So that's basically how they'll be able to listen to it. But it's all online. It's all digital. There aren't any hard copies of CDs or anything for this one. Okay. I'm thinking I may, once I've done 3 or 4 volumes, then put out a compilation of what I think are the most popular songs. Very cool. But that's down to the audience, so I'll find that out once I put them out there.
And is there a website?
It might be a compilation of 3. We'll see.
And do you have a website that people can find out more about your concerts in the new year and more about yourself?
Absolutely. It's tomsolomonsinger.com. Pretty easy. tomsolomonsinger.com.
Perfect.
They can go there. I've also got a Facebook page where I post all my information, really. I'm not on Twitter or Instagram or any of the other sites. I find it so consuming throughout the day that I've just decided to stick to Facebook page, because I'm old school. I won't say old, but old school. Yeah, so Facebook is a really good one. Tom Solomon on Facebook.
Perfect.
And you'll find me.
Well, wonderful. I hope everybody goes and checks that out, your website and everything, and your concerts. And I know I'm looking forward to playing some of these songs on the radio station once, you know, everything is released. So thank you for contacting me and letting me know about this. I'm so excited to playing something new.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
No problem. Now,
it's lovely to be heard in Canada. Amazing. I've never performed in Canada. I'd love to. I've got a friend, actually, Michelle Todd, who sings, Michelle Todd soprano. She sings in Canada and comes over here and sings with me too. She's a fabulous performer. But she's in Canada and she wants me to come over at some point to sing. But obviously at the moment it's very difficult.
Well, yes, I know, and that's why I haven't been over to the UK yet. It's not
exactly
not easy. Well, before we go, Tom, I always ask 3 questions of my guests. There's no right or wrong answers, but we will get to know the real.
You said that about the pizza, though.
That was a whole different question. That's a whole different thing.
Luckily, I got the right answer.
You did. I don't know. We'll see if you.
Oh no! Here we go. Okay.
We're going to delve into the deep recesses of Tom's mind.
That's very scary place.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. What creator or team within musical theater has had a great influence on you? Now, it could be a composer, a lyricist, director, producer, actor, stage manager, even. It could be somebody famous or not famous, like a teacher. Has there been anybody who's had a great influence on
you? Yes, there is. There's a few, but I would have to go with the first ever influence on me, and that was my singing teacher at school. That was Sarah Quintella. She guided me into musical theatre when it wasn't cool to be in musical theatre. It wasn't cool to go on stage and sing as a boy growing up in your teens. I think we all know what that feels like if you're interested in the arts. And so she pushed me, literally pushed me when I said, no, I'm not going to go and sing on the stage, pushed me onto the stage to get me singing. And I went to her for private lessons. She suggested the choir. She then, taught me all the way through up to grade 8, and then suggested to my mum that I take it up as a career. Even though it's precarious, and my mum, she was very worried about this, as all mothers are when you say you want to be a performer or in the arts, because they know what the realities are. And so, but she said, no, I think she didn't stake her home on it, but she said, I think he's good enough, so he should at least try because he loves it. And so Sarah Kinsella was my main influence for going into the industry, and I thank her for that.
Correct answer. Can't go wrong.
Thank you.
So one down. 1 point. So question number 2. Yes. You were a swing. We know that in Les Mis. Was there a moment that you can tell us that it just went bonkers? You either you forgot which way you were going or which character you were playing. Is there any fun stories from those days?
There's a few. Again, there was one time, in fact, it was my first night on that I mentioned, and there's a scene in Paris where Marius and Cosette first meet. And I should have known this because I understudied Marius at first, but it got mixed up with all the 11 characters, and I was playing Babet, which is one of the gang, and on their moment of meeting, their eyes connect across the stage, and I decided to walk straight between them and stand in between these two lovers, and they were sort of moving their heads thinking, we're meant to be eyes, and I could see the Marius moving his eyes, sort of move out the way. Anyway, so that was one, and the other time, I'm really saying things I probably shouldn't say now. But anyway, hey ho. It was 20 years ago. So the barricade turned round, and everyone is waiting for the announcement, the warnings to sing live over the barricade. Mm-hmm. And I'd forgotten to go off stage at the back because I was playing about 4 roles at the time. We were out of people, and so I was doing 4 roles and meant to do the barricades warnings off stage, and I'd forgotten to go off the stage, so there were no warnings. Oh, no. So instead of "you at the barricade, listen to this," there was nothing. It was literally. So that was, and I could just see everyone laughing, thinking, "Yeah, that's me, and I'm not there." Hey ho, what can you do? So these things happen. It's live theatre.
Yeah, live. Yeah, exactly. It's live theater. Anything can happen. I know. I went to. I got a lame this story. I was sitting in the audience. I wasn't on stage. The moment Valjean was about to sing "Bring Him Home," that pause, the tambourine fell, and it just kills that moment completely. But
it's just the worst moment, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
There is another moment actually that a friend of mine that was in the show with me did, and he sang, "Here's to pretty boys who went to our beds instead of girls." Oh, no. And no problem with that, obviously. But in terms of the show, everyone on stage started laughing, and the audience actually. So that was another one. But these things happen. And it keeps the show fresh and alive. And the audience love it as well. If something goes, as long as it's not dangerous and no one's hurt. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when live shows go wrong, people like it because they know it's live, they know it's fresh. It's not, you're not just seeing this machine of a show. You're seeing something live, which keeps it really interesting.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it. So correct answer. Correct answers. Awesome. I do have a follow-up question that doesn't really get you any points or anything, but how intimidating and large is that barricade? You see it from the audience, but to be beside it, and it just looks huge.
It is big. It's very big. So big, in fact, that the understudy, here's another story, the understudy Javert came over the top of the barricade, which there's another email gone off, which sorry about that, which is, as I said, very high, and there's lots of things sticking out of it. So unless you know that you take the correct path, you're going to have a problem. And he's got to go down past all the dead bodies that have been killed, all the students. So, and he tripped at the top of the barricade, and then there's this metal grate which I think Courfeyrac, Chris Fennessy, was laying on at the time, and this. Javert is a big man. He was a big man. He was 6'3" or something, and he literally fell on top of Chris onto the grate on his face, rolled off, and you just heard him rolling off all the way down the barricade and land on the floor. Things like that happen, and luckily he was okay. But in terms of the side of the barricade, it's huge. Yes. Well, it was at the Shaftesbury at the Palace Theatre on Shaftesbury Avenue. It may be a bit smaller in the new production. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. I haven't been there, but it was very big. Yeah. So if you fall down it, you've got a problem.
Yeah, it's so intimidating just from being in the audience. It's just looking at that thing. It's a beast. But yeah, to be
absolutely. Yes, it is very big.
Wow. Okay, so you've got 2 correct answers so far.
Okay.
This third one is going to be the one that determines what people think of you. So think about it carefully. Here we go. Question number 3. Food in the theater or cell phones in the theater? Which is worse?
Oh, definitely cell phones.
Okay.
100%. Am I right for you, or am I wrong?
I would also accept they're both awful.
I would say, well, they're obviously both awful, but I did have the option of one or the other.
You did.
I'm gonna state that. In the cinema, I would actually prefer a cell phone in the cinema, actually, but in the theatre I'd prefer food, I'd rather watch someone eating than have their phone go off during Bring Him Home, which has happened many, many times. So I understand that people need to be connected to technology, but if you're coming to see a show, I mean, I always turn my phone off, and I would just have thought that you would want to see the show for 2 hours and turn everything off. Isn't that the point of going?
I know. I just don't understand why people can't just turn off the phone. It's only 2.5 hours. It's not like something is gonna be crazy or happen. You know what? Back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, when there were no cell phones, there was no giant explosion of bad things happening. It's like just
exactly. And actually, what's worse for me as an audience member when I go to see a show is someone who's wearing a hat, which I've seen someone ask them in front of them to take their hat off, and they refused and nothing, they couldn't really do anything about it. But yeah, so anyone who's wearing a big hat, I think that's a problem when someone's sitting behind you and you can't see when you've paid all that money for a seat.
So listeners out there, if you're in the theater and you're wearing a hat, just make sure Tom's not in the audience.
Take it off.
Because he will tell you. He will come up to you.
I will stop singing, even if it's Bring Him Home, and come and take that hat off you.
3 correct answers, Tom, for 3 questions.
Oh, fabulous. I was just sitting here sweating.
I have no prizes, but you are the winner. So
at least you're far enough away. There's no repercussions.
Nope, no, not at all. Tom, again, thank you so much for coming on the show, telling us a little bit about your career, your life, and about this new album that is dropping in just like 3 weeks from now, not too long.
10th of December, yes, it is. But pre-order, it's
for sure
still out for pre-order. if you want it, go and pre-order it. That awesome. Would be fabulous.
Thank you
really
so
help.
much.
Thank you, Jean-Paul.
We were just speaking with Tom Solomon, who's dropping the album Musicals Volume 1 on December 10th of 2021. Make sure you check that out at all streaming options. Tune in next week as we will speak with another guest or guests about their life, love, and passion that is musical theater. I am your host, Jean-Paul Jovanov, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.